All right, so let's jump right into it. This whole thing with Trump pushing for Ukraine-Russia peace talks,
Yeah.
it's huge, right? I mean, this could really shake things up globally.
Oh, absolutely.
We've been combing through reports, New York Times, Axios
Right.
France 24. We've even got some international perspectives.
Wow.
So yeah, we're going to unpack all this.
Sounds like a lot to cover.
Yeah, it is. It is. It really is. It's a whirlwind for sure.
Yeah, Trump's not wasting any time back in the White House. Straight to the phone with Putin,
Right.
hinting at face-to-face meetings already.
It's wild.
Could really rewrite the whole U.S.-Russia playbook.
Totally. And they haven't exactly been best buds lately either. So this sudden shift, I mean, come on.
Yeah, people are definitely raising eyebrows.
For sure. It's like a complete 180 from how icy things have been between them.
Right.
And remember all those campaign promises about ending the war quickly?
Oh, yeah.
Well, now he's actually in a position to, maybe try and do that.
He is, isn't he?
Axios is even saying that first call with Putin since he took office.
Yeah.
They're describing it as, get this, lengthy and highly productive.
Highly productive, huh? Interesting choice of words.
Right. Like, what does that even mean?
Exactly. Makes you wonder.
And this whole thing, this call, it happened right after that prisoner swap.
Oh, yeah, right.
The U.S. released that Russian crypto hacker, remember?
Yeah, Alexander Vinik.
Right. And in exchange, we got back Mark Fogel, that American teacher.
Some people are saying it's a goodwill gesture, maybe setting the stage for these bigger talks.
Okay, so we've got these goodwill gestures, talk of negotiations, all that. But what's the actual plan?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah, seriously. Seems like everyone's trying to figure out Trump on endgame here.
Yeah, journalists, world leaders.
Everyone.
It's that lack of specifics. It's creating a lot of uncertainty, a lot of speculation, makes people nervous.
Well, yeah, I mean, the New York Times, CBN, others, they're all reporting that European leaders are pretty concerned.
I bet.
They're worried that if the West backs down from supporting Ukraine,
Right.
it sends this message like might makes right,
Yeah, basically saying it's okay to just bully your way to what you want.
It's a scary thought.
It is.
And then you add in Trump saying that Ukraine joining NATO is impractical. Like, hello, red flag.
Oh, yeah, that definitely raised some eyebrows.
And then you've got Hegseth, the defense secretary, saying restoring Ukraine's pre-2014 borders is unrealistic.
You put those two things together, and
That's not looking good.
it sounds like they're ready to give Russia quite a bit.
Yeah, potentially huge concessions.
Big turning point.
And I can't imagine Zelensky's thrilled about being left out of the loop.
Probably not.
Remember that interview he did with The Economist?
Yeah, where he was adamant about no decisions being made about Ukraine without Kyiv involved.
Exactly. Seems like that's not happening, though.
Not at the moment, anyway.
So, shady negotiations, Putin talking about finding the root causes of the war and, quote, a long-term solution.
Whatever that means.
Right. Zelensky just wants peace, obviously, but Salon.com saying he's feeling sidelined.
Understandably so.
And then there's Trump making moves nobody seems to fully understand,
It really is like some kind of high-stakes poker game
where everyone's bluffing.
and hoping they don't get called on it.
Right. And let's not forget about this whole rare earth angle.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
This is where Trump's inner deal maker really comes out.
Totally. He's talking about securing those Ukrainian mineral resources.
Those rare earth minerals, yeah, essential for all that high-tech stuff.
Exactly. And he's suggesting this, in exchange for continued U.S. aid.
Hold on, is he talking about past aid or future aid?
Honestly, even the New York Times doesn't seem to know.
So ambiguous.
Classic Trump adds to the whole unpredictable vibe.
It does, and Zelensky, he seems open to a deal, at least according to the South China Morning Post.
Yeah, I saw that.
But he's not crazy about the terms, apparently.
High stakes, for sure.
Think about this, though. Why are these rare earth minerals so important that Trump's willing to put them on the table like this?
That's the question, isn't it?
They're in everything. Smartphones, electric cars.
Even weapon systems?
High-tech stuff, right. And China, they control most of the global supply.
Right now they do.
But this deal, this could totally shift the balance of power.
No question.
It's mind-boggling. Secret backroom deals, global power ships, so many unknowns.
And all this is happening against the backdrop of a war that's already cost so much.
Countless lives, immense suffering. It's heavy stuff.
It is. But yeah, zooming out to the geopolitics of it all, the stakes are enormous.
They really are, and Trump's not messing around. He's putting together a serious team for these talks.
Oh, yeah. Like who?
Big names, Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, John Ratcliffe heading the CIA, Michael Waltz as National Security Advisor.
Wow.
Heavy hitters, right?
Definitely.
And get this, Zelensky's scheduled to meet with Vice President Vance and Secretary Rubio at the Munich Security Conference.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I heard about that.
It's going to be a big one. All eyes on that meeting.
For sure. Will they actually make progress towards peace?
Who knows? Or will it just be more power plays and posturing?
Only time will tell.
The tension is palpable. Feels like something huge is about to happen.
Like standing on the edge of a cliff.
But which way it'll go? No clue.
Right, we've talked about players, their possible motivations, the uncertainty.
Laid it all out, but I think we need to go deeper.
Deeper.
Yeah. What are the potential consequences of all this? What does it mean for Ukraine's future?
Good point. Let's dive into that.
Let's do it.
Let's try and game this out then. What are your first impressions, really? What's striking you about this whole situation?
Honestly, it's Trump's audacity. It's kind of amazing. He's not exactly easing into this diplomacy thing.
Right.
He's going straight for the jugular, full-on negotiations with, let's face it, a guy a lot of people consider a global pariah. And at the same time, he's potentially undermining Ukraine's, their hopes for NATO membership, their territorial integrity, the whole nine yards. It's bold. Some might even say reckless.
I think you've hit on something really important there. This kind of suggests that Trump, he sees these international relations as just a series of transactions.
Interesting.
It's all about immediate wins. Forget long-term alliances, strategic partnerships, all that. This is about ending a war that's costing the U.S. money, scoring points with voters back home.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, grabbing some valuable resources while he's at it.
But is it really a win for everyone, though? I mean, France 24, Il Foglio, a lot of these European outlets are reporting some serious unease among Western allies.
Yeah.
They're worried that if we cave to Putin now, he's just going to get bolder,
Yeah, emboldened. And it sets a terrible precedent for future conflicts. It's like we're rewarding bad behavior on a global scale.
Exactly. So the big question is, will this lead to a real peace, a lasting peace? Or is this just going to solidify Russia's gains and leave Ukraine vulnerable?
Tough question, isn't it? And it's got everyone on edge. No easy answers there.
Definitely not. And let's not forget about the Ukrainians themselves, right? They're stuck in the middle of this whole power struggle.
Absolutely.
Their fate's hanging in the balance. Zelensky, he's trying to project strength. I mean, you see it in his statements. Cromo, Safari, Tagliani, all those sources are reporting it.
Yeah.
But he's in a tough spot, no doubt.
Walking a tightrope, for sure. He needs the West, especially us, to back him up against Russia. But he also can't afford to, piss off Trump. Trump holding the purse strings here.
He is.
And ultimately, he's the one calling the shots.
It's like he's caught between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act. And then you've got this whole lack of transparency in the negotiations. We're getting scraps of information, rumors, speculation.
It's driving everyone crazy.
It's classic Trump, though, right?
Totally.
He loves that unpredictability, keep everyone guessing, maintain the element of surprise, control the narrative, makes it almost impossible to know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and what the long-term fallout might be.
Yeah,
It's like we're watching this geopolitical game of chicken, but with real lives at stake.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And it's easy to get caught up in all the strategy and the maneuvering. But real peace, it's not just about a ceasefire or some agreement on paper.
Right.
It's about addressing the root causes of the conflict, building trust, creating an environment where everyone feels safe and respected.
That's where it gets really tricky, though, right? Because some of the articles we've seen, Open, Lunita, a few others, they suggest that Trump's idea of peace, it might not line up with those principles.
I see your side.
His whole focus on quick deals, immediate gains, it feels like he's prioritizing expediency over real reconciliation.
Like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound,
Exactly. It makes you wonder, can you actually achieve lasting peace through purely transactional means? Or do you need something deeper, something that deals with the past, the grievances, the shared interests?
Deep, meaningful engagement.
Right.
That's a tough question. I think people are going to be debating that one for a long time.
This whole thing, honestly, it has this slow-motion train wreck vibe.
I know what you mean. But hey, history's full of twists and turns, right?
It's true.
We can analyze the situation, look at the different possibilities, try to make sense of it all, but we can't predict the future.
Fair enough.
There's always the chance of something unexpected happening, consequences we didn't see coming.
I can't shake this feeling of unease, though. This feels massive. Not just for Ukraine and Russia, but for everyone.
I get it.
It's like we're watching the old rules of international relations crumble, and nobody knows what's going to replace them.
That's what happens when you're in a paradigm shift, right? Old certainties disappear, new ones haven't quite formed yet. It's messy, it's risky.
Yeah.
And it's also, it's also a time of opportunity. New alliances, challenging old assumptions, maybe even some innovative solutions we haven't even thought of yet.
You're right. You're right. It's too early to say how this is all going to shape out.
Way too early.
But we are definitely seeing the world being reshaped right before our eyes. It's unsettling, sure, but you got to admit, it's pretty captivating.
Oh, absolutely. This is an inflection point, no doubt. Future's uncertain, but one thing's for sure, the whole world's watching. Stakes are incredibly high.
They really are.
To really wrap our heads around this whole thing, we need to zoom out a bit. Look at the bigger picture, the historical trends at play.
Yeah, I'm with you. We've talked about the players, their moves, all that. But what are the deeper forces driving this whole conflict? What does this mean for global stability in the long run?
Big questions.
What does this tell us about the future of international relations?
Those are the million-dollar questions, aren't they? I mean, for decades, it's been the U.S. leading the way. Rules-based international order, you know the drill. Multilateralism, alliances, democratic values, all that.
Right.
But what Trump's doing, it seems like a pretty clear departure from that model.
Yeah.
This America First foreign policy, it's a lot more transactional.
It is, and a lot of the sources we've been looking at, New York Times, Al Jazeera, everyone's saying the same thing. It's like the U.S. is taking a step back from global leadership, going for a more pragmatic approach, putting their own interests first.
And that creates a vacuum, right? And who's stepping up to fill it? China, Russia. They're getting more assertive, challenging U.S. dominance, pushing the boundaries of the old order.
So it's like a domino effect.
Yeah, I like that.
Trump does this in Ukraine, and it ripples out across the whole system, emboldens other authoritarian leaders.
Potentially destabilizes entire regions.
Exactly.
This is how interconnected global politics really is. What happens in Ukraine doesn't stay in Ukraine.
Right, it has consequences everywhere.
Energy security, nuclear proliferation, trade, even the fight against climate change, it affects everything.
So this isn't just some far-off political drama. It touches everyone's lives in some way.
Absolutely. And that brings up an important question, right?
What's that?
How does all this impact the average person?
Right. Why should people care about these high-level diplomatic games?
Because these shifts in power, ultimately they affect all of us.
Okay.
They influence the price of gas, the security of our data online, the stability of our financial markets, even the air we breathe. Global politics, it's not some abstract concept anymore. It's something we experience every single day.
Got it. So big deal, serious consequences. We've established that. But back to Ukraine specifically, what are some possible scenarios here? What might their future look like?
Okay, so the best case scenario, and this seems to be what Trump's hoping for, is a negotiated settlement, something that ends the fighting quickly.
Okay.
But as we've been saying, the details matter a lot. What will Ukraine have to give up? Will they maintain their sovereignty, their territory? And can any agreement actually be enforced? Can it actually prevent Russia from doing this again down the road?
Judging by Zelensky's statements, and we've seen this reported in NSA, Ad Contronos, others, he's not exactly optimistic.
He's got every right to be cautious. Another possibility, and this one's a lot less appealing, is what we call a frozen conflict.
What does that mean?
Basically, the fighting stops, but there's no formal peace treaty. Ukraine's stuck in limbo, a part of their country's under Russian control, their economy is struggling, constant tension.
Not great.
No, not at all. And it basically gives Putin the green light to try this kind of thing again somewhere else.
Encourages more aggression, basically.
Exactly. And then there's the worst case scenario.
Oh, no.
Full-blown escalation. This thing could spiral out of control, drag NATO into a direct conflict with Russia.
That's terrifying.
It is. It's the nightmare scenario. Nobody wants it, but the risk is there, especially with how volatile things are right now.
So, to put it bluntly, Ukraine's future's hanging by a thread.
It is. And the outcome of these negotiations, this could have repercussions way beyond Ukraine.
Absolutely. And it really highlights how important it is to be informed, to be engaged, to actually understand what's going on.
Couldn't agree more.
We need to grasp the complexity of these issues, see the different perspectives, understand the potential consequences of these decisions.
It's not just about geopolitical maneuvering, right?
No.
This is about people's lives, real people, and the future of our world.
It is. So, to our listener, please stay tuned.
Yeah, stay informed.
Read from different sources, consider different viewpoints, ask tough questions.
Don't be afraid to dig deep.
The fate of Ukraine, maybe even the future of the world order, it might depend on it. It really does feel like that, doesn't it? Like we're watching the world order being rewritten right in front of us.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. I mean, for decades, right, we've all kind of operated under this idea, this assumption that the U.S., they set the tone and everyone else, they kind of fall in line.
Right.
But what happens when the U.S. itself decides to change the game? Like throws out the rule book.
It's unsettling, to say the least. And it brings us back to these rare earth minerals.
Oh, yeah.
You were saying earlier how important they are for technology, for defense, all that. Can you break that down a bit more? What makes them so strategically valuable?
Okay, so imagine this, right? Imagine a world where, like, your smartphone just stops working.
Oh, no.
Your electric car can't be built. And even, like, advanced military equipment, it's just useless. That's the potential impact of a rare earth shortage.
Wow.
These minerals, they're in everything, all these high-tech devices we rely on.
Right.
And right now, China, they control most of the global supply.
So what you're saying is by maybe getting access to Ukraine's reserve, Trump's trying to break China's hold on this whole industry.
That's one way to look at it. It's a big move. Could have huge implications for technology, global trade, even military power.
It sounds like a high-stakes game of chess almost.
It is. It is. And controlling these resources, that's a major advantage.
But wouldn't this just shift the dependency, from one country to another? Wouldn't it be better to just, I don't know, find other sources or develop technologies that don't even need these minerals?
I mean, ideally, yeah, that's the goal, right? A more diversified, more sustainable way of doing things. But the thing is, rare earths, they're rare. Finding alternatives, developing new technologies, it takes time.
Right.
And in the meantime, countries, they're scrambling to secure their own access to these resources. They need them.
So it's a race?
It is a race against time. And the implications for global power, they're huge.
This is a lot to take in. What can the average person even do about any of this? It feels so big, like we're just pawns in this game.
That's why being an informed citizen is so important. Understanding what's going on, that's the first step.
Okay, how do we do that?
Read from a variety of sources. Challenge your own assumptions. Talk to people. Have real conversations.
So knowledge is power.
It really is. The more we understand these forces that are shaping our world, the better we can, make informed choices, hold our leaders accountable, maybe even influence the course of things.
So to our listener, we really encourage you to keep learning about this. Don't just take our word for it. Go out there, check out the sources we mentioned.
Do your own research.
Come to your own conclusions. This story's not over yet, and understanding it, it's vital. The future of Ukraine and maybe even the world, it's hanging in the balance.
Yeah, and as we try to figure this all out, this complex, uncertain situation, remember that curiosity, thinking critically, really engaging with these issues, those are our best tools.
I like that. Use them wisely.
Absolutely.
Well said. I think that's a good place to wrap things up. To our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.